Welcome to the Sip and Chat every Thursday, where we sip and we chat. Myself, along with my wonderful co host, Miss Nexie, we sit and we chat about some great topics. And today is going to be a pretty serious one. Speaking about, well, we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, how are you, loved ones, doing? Welcome to Love Marlene 411. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, hit that like. Yeah, all of that. So, what are you sippers sipping on? Today, I just have my tea. It's a little chilly today, so I have my peppermint tea. You guys know how I roll. I love my peppermint tea, so that's what I'm sipping on today. And I'm just waiting on my co host, Miss Nexie, and we're going to get into the topic. But what are you guys sipping on? And yeah, all of that. So while I'm waiting on my co-host, Miss Nexie, I'm going to put up the banner here for what we're going to be talking about today. Um, it's a pretty hard topic to talk about, but I think a very important topic to talk about. Today's topic is Beyond the Possessiveness, Reclaiming My Life After a Jealous Relationship. Reclaiming my life. Hi, puzzle pieces. How are you doing? Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you and your support. I have put the link there in the chat, and you are welcome to come up whenever you are ready. So, yeah, in talking about a possessive relationship, I think it's so important to first start off by saying trigger warning. This could be triggering for some, so discretion is advised. Put up my disclaimer. So let's welcome my wonderful co-host, Miss Nexie.
Hello, Marlene. Hello, chat. How are
Hi.
you doing today?
I'm doing good, 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 good. How are you doing?
Ooh, thank you so much for moving the time. I'm so sorry. I had to get rid of someone's
Oh,
really quick, but it's done. It's over with. And here we are. I'm doing great, Marlene. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing good, good, good. So, Miss Nexa, what are you sipping on?
Okay, drum roll.
Drum roll, please.
Simple water.
You made me do a drum roll for
No,
water?
wait, no, wait. No, actually, it's called Polar.
Polar Springs?
It's ruby red grapefruit.
Oh, well, then that's not regular water because look what I'm doing. I just got plain old. You can't even see it because of my. That's it. At least you
That's
have a
all you got.
flavored water. Yeah, that's all I have. I don't have anything special or
See,
exciting. Ooh. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, you have seltzer water. Look at that. Mm.
it's interesting.
Well, okay. I already know what interesting means. That means you don't like it.
Marlene, you're gonna not like me for saying this, but I'm not as weird as some people who don't like water. Marlene, move your toes. I
Oh.
actually like regular water. So when
Mm.
I get this fruit-based type of things or this seltzer thingy, it's like, ew, I just like plain water. Room
Weirdo.
temperature.
Weirdo. Man, I got
Like
something in my throat. Something is stuck for sure.
let me go in there and just pull my hand down your throat and get it out for you.
I'm sorry. I don't
I don't
like
know why.
water.
I just don't like flavor things. I just like plain water. Maybe because I grew up with that, Marlene. I grew up drinking just plain
Oh,
old water, and sodas and juices. They were not the norm. They were the oh my god, we're having juice or a soda today. It's what's a big deal. Which maybe that's why I didn't get used to it.
oh, okay. Well,
Mm.
then that makes sense because I was drinking juice probably from my baby bottle.
You weren't supposed to be doing that.
Well,
Let
tell
me
my
talk to
mother that
mom.
when she has 10
Let me
kids,
talk
okay?
to mom. Let me talk to mom right now.
Okay, you tell me when you have 10 kids. My mom was like, "Oh, you want juice? Go have juice and go sit down."
Hey, what I want to tell your mom when I see her
Uh-huh.
is, oh my God, how did you do it, mom? I'm so sorry you got stuck with those 10 things you called
What?
your children.
No, you didn't. No, she didn't. I'm rolling my head now, y'all. I'm rolling my head for sure. I'm rolling my eyes. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Put my word. I have never seen her roll her head. I probably did something really wrong this time. No, but it's something that I enjoy. Like water, I can drink water all day. It doesn't, make me feel any kind of way. And of course, my leaning between my waters, you know what it is, my coffee.
I already know. Okay. Okay,
Mm.
okay, okay. So, yeah.
My
Okay.
coffee.
All right. So, Miss Next, we're talking about this topic today. I don't know if I said, did I say hi to Miss Tracy? I don't know. But
Oh,
hi,
hi,
Miss
Miss Tracy.
Tracy. Yeah, that was in unison. That was good. Okay.
Yeah, we're in sync, girl.
And we're in sync. So, we're talking about beyond the possessiveness, reclaiming my life after a jealous relationship.
Mm.
Mm. Okay. Miss Nexie, I'm gonna start off by saying that when you're in that sort of relationship and there has been so much controlling, manipulation, using, when you have been through so much of that, you don't even know that you're in a jealous relationship. I can say that for myself. Yeah, you just think that's how it's supposed to be.
It becomes normal. Is that what it is? You meaning you normalize it, right? You thought it was okay. This is normal. Every couple goes through this type of jealousy with, you know what I mean? Like you probably normalized it that way, Marlene.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
I did. I normalized, and that's the thing that's wrong. Like they really mess us up into thinking that they mess up your mind. They play so much mind games and manipulation and all those things that you start to even doubt yourself and thinking that it's me. I'm the one that does doing wrong.
I'm the one causing him to be jealous or her to be jealous because I probably did something that, provoked this or reminded them of this. I understand. I've had a lot of friends. I can honestly say I have never been in that situation as to having a partner or, that it was jealous and possessive. I think that for me, Marlene, personally, the jealousy came after the separation. I don't know if I'm making myself, like understood
Oh,
on this.
yeah, I can understand that 100%, Miss Nexie, because when you have somebody like that, I can't see how it can be after, but mine was during.
Oh no, that
Yeah,
is that is so exhausting, Marlene. That is very exhausting. That means that after the separation, if you guys are no longer together, which I'm hoping that's the case, that means you had to go through even more of that behavior after you guys split it up.
yeah,
Am I right? Oh.
yeah, a lot more because when you put up with something for so long, when you finally come to the realization that something is messed up about the relationship, then they don't understand like what changed, like why now, why is it messed up now. And I'm saying, like, it's always been messed up, but I just realized that.
E- Again, for me, I didn't experience that, but I did have a lot of coworkers, probably a couple of family members that had to endure, the behavior from the person they were with, to the point that it becomes a little bit of like a stalker behavior, Marlene. It becomes really weird. Again, since I had not experienced it, I didn't know to look for those signs, right? That that you and I know now what it is to look for. I didn't know that there were certain things that they had to do in order to calm this person's either worried or jealousy or whatever it is that they called it. I didn't know that there were certain steps or certain signs that of the steps that they take in order for them to have like some sort of peaceful relationship, which I thought it was too much work. Like I will think, like, if I had to do that on a daily basis, I'm sorry, I would have left a long time ago. That's too much work for a relationship.
Yeah, and it
Like,
was. And it was, Nexty, because I was on the opposite side. That, yeah, I was in it. You were out of it, but I was in it. Um, yeah, I was in it all along. And when you're in a relationship with somebody who's always jealous, it gives you a lot of, like, I doubted myself all the time. And even though I'm not in that relationship anymore, I still have some remnants of that, because
the
for so
stressors.
many years, it gave me so much triggers. Mhm.
And that's the thing that for me, like I said, it was something that I didn't experience. We in the beginning, of course, there's things that you find yourself doing, like, because you come from a home where you're supposed to inform, right?
Mhm.
Your mom or your dad, hey, I'm going somewhere, I'm gonna be, I'm on my way home, or I'm here, don't worry about it, or whatever it is. That, so you come from a home like that, so when you get into the marriage, it's kind of like an extension of that, but eventually you learn to, you know what, I just leave a note, I'm married, he's my husband, not my mom or my dad. So you learn to kind of get away from that, you know constantly letting that person know. um or you have a partner that tells you, hey hon, you know what, I'm not your mom or dad, so you don't have to be telling me everything that you do, which is someone that is understanding, right, that wants you to be
Right.
your own person, that wants you to have your own time, and that you don't have to be telling them everything you do. When you have someone like that, you learn that, to leave that behavior aside. But if you have someone that is an extension of what you came from, it comes natural for you to be doing all those things. And then you have to do extra, right, Marlene, to calm those people down so that they don't question you until 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning because you didn't tell them the second place that you were going to go to.
Oh boy, could I get into some details of that, Miss Nexie? It's like everything that you do is questioned, and oh, perish the thought that you change your mind. I thought you were going here. How come you're not there? Because I changed my mind. And why not? And who's there? Who's there with you? What are you eating? I thought you didn't have money. Who's paying for you? Who's that in the background? It's
Ah,
exhausting.
it's Nanya. Did you tell him that? It's Nanya. No, I have been, like I said, with people that have had with women and men, because I've had a couple of cousins of mine that have been in relationships on where this woman wanted to know everywhere they were in. Oh, but not just everywhere, but receipts, right?
Oh,
Of just proof that they have been there. And my other cousin, her husband, well, soon to be husband, that was her fiance, kept on asking her to send like little snapshots of where she was at, right?
Mm.
Oh, let me see where you're at. Oh, that's awesome. And who's with you? So and so. Oh, let me see. Take a picture of all of you guys. She thought it was so cute, right? That he wanted a picture of all of us. And if there was a waiter or somebody sitting on the next table, who's that guy? Is that guy with you guys? It's like, what the heck? So she had to be on the phone constantly,
Mm.
because she had to explain everything that was going around. And every 5 minutes, that text will pop up.
Wow.
What are you guys doing now? What are you guys drinking? Do you want me to go pick you up? Do you want me to be? I'm going to be around the corner if you guys want me. No, no, no. We had to stop her from inviting him over because we could never have her by ourselves, you
Ugh.
know? And so um, he got upset, but I was the one who told him, listen, you're nothing to me because you're not my family member. You're nothing. Even if you marry her, you're still going to be nothing to me. You're just going to be her husband that I have to respect. But until then, I want a one on one with my cousin. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to stay home. And if you don't like it, and if she opts to go with you and not see me, then that's on her. I want her to tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
And, so my auntie got involved and she said, no, 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 no. They're cousins. You have to stay put and let my daughter be with her cousins. And I kept on telling my auntie, this is wrong. This is wrong. So eventually, Marlene, even though everybody told her, this is not right. There's something there. You have to be careful because it's too much. Well, she married him and he ended up moving her, to the other side of the country so that she wouldn't have anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I understand. I understand 100%, Nexie. It was I just felt tired all the time, Nexie. And I wasn't even working or doing anything, but I was always tired because I believe it was the mental exhaustion.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
constantly having to explain everything you're doing, everything you're eating, you're sleeping. Why are you sleeping so long? And when are you going to wake up? And like you get no peace.
No, you get PTSD.
Yeah.
You get PTSD from it. And the thing here is that you start getting so overwhelmed that you lose a part of you. You lose your who you are, who you were before this person. And you're constantly on the defense, on the defense mode. Like, don't talk about him because he's good to me. He's just concerned, right? Because I've
Mm.
seen that happen a lot.
Oh,
She loves me. That's why she it's the way she is, because she loves me a lot. And she lost a boyfriend before, on somewhere, and that's why. And I said, why did she lose? So you start being on that defense mode with everybody else that is trying to tell you this is not normal, but you have normalized it so much that for you you know it's because he loves me, or because she
no,
loves me.
no, and on my side, it was they just are concerned about me.
Hmm.
I just want to know where you are. I just want to know where you are. And I did not realize that it was a control. I was being controlled.
Yeah, it's a control mechanism.
Mhm.
And that, again, it's a lot of times we're the last ones to know that that's what it is. Everybody else around us, I shouldn't say us because I cannot put myself in that situation, but the person that is being controlled is the last one to realize that that's exactly what's happening, because again, they mask it on the point of, I love you so much that I want to protect you, right?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that you're okay. If your parents didn't do this for you, I care so much more than they did, because
Mhm.
that's why I'm, doing this for you. Now, I get it. Some people do care for you, and some people, are there for you, but at the same time,
Uh-oh. I think my either my mic or Nexie's mic went out. Is it my mic or Nexie's? I think your mic went out, Miss Nexie. Uh-oh, Miss Nexie went out. I'm sure she'll come back. I hope you're okay, Miss Tracy. So, one of the things that oh, you hear me? Okay, good. One of the things that I have to say while we're waiting for Miss Nexie to come back is it's so important for us to not really worry about, anybody else when we're in this healing phase, because that's what me and Miss Nexie are talking about, healing from the pain of all of this, that it's not an easy thing because it affects us mentally when we go through this. And I have to say that it's not just romantic relationships where we deal with possessiveness. It also can go into, your children and other relatives.
Mm. That is so true. I'm so sorry. For some reason, I got dropped. Like it wouldn't allow me to talk. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, it's true that sometimes we are some control from our kids. Sometimes I've seen kids that are very controlling too, and parents, right, that are very
Mhm.
controlling with their kids. But for me, I feel that it's more often done by a partner.
Right.
It's more often done by that, but that than it is because as a child, yeah, you can be a controlling parent, but there's a point where the child says, you know what, I'm this age, I'm gone, and they bolt. They can go, they can move on. But with a partner is different. It's a more intimate relationship. It's a
Mhm.
little bit harder to, because you're so in love with that person. It's a little bit harder to see and evaluate and kind of put yourself outside of the spectrum and says, maybe this is not healthy, but you're
Mhm.
so in love that you don't see it, and it's more often done that way than it is with parent and child type of thing.
Right. And you know what I say to that too is I have to also go back with the statement that you just said. You say you're in love, but love does not do these things. We have these conversations because we have to identify that if
Mm-hmm.
somebody is controlling like that, manipulative, wants to know everything, control your every thought, what you do, they're very possessive of you. That's not a loving relationship. That's toxicity.
Which is why I said it. Because a lot of us, no, a lot of us, yeah, I should say us. I don't know why I'm taking myself out of the equation. Because I am, a person that could have gone or did go a little bit on that side, but after that relationship. But we are so wrapped up in that he loves me so much, or I love him so much, that we don't want to accept what even sometimes our best friends tell us. And these are people that we have had for many, many years, who know who we are and know that we're acting differently and that we're putting up with something that is not healthy. We sometimes even dismiss their input because we're so engrossed in the phrase that he loves me, or I'm so in love. But we sometimes misrecognize, Marlene, is what you just said, is that love is not something that someone can use to control you. When a person loves you, that person wants you to grow. That person is going to want you to grow. That person is going to want the best for you. That person is going to want you to step out of your comfort zone and grow as a person because they love you so. And the same is for you. You're going to want that person to go through that, even if it means that you're not going to see them as often because they're growing as a person. That's what love is supposed to be all about. Not about control, not about possession. And I feel that sometimes we confuse two, as you said.
Mhm. Yeah, it's all, love is often misrepresent. Oh, I'm tongue tied. Um, sometimes love is misrepresented.
Misrepresented.
Yeah. That was a difficult one. I felt like I was back in grade school again. I was like, I messed
I
up
go
this.
through that. I go through that all the time, Miss Marlene, all the time. There's one word that I always get, and I have to repeat it myself and then say it. Never mind me. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, love is often misrepresented because a lot of people, let me just say this, Miss Nexty, a lot of people do not know what love is to begin with.
Mm.
Mm.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Yes,
could be in
ma'am.
relationship after relationship your whole life. You could be in three, four serious relationships, and you could say, "Oh yeah, I was in love, and love hurt me." But when you come to the realization of it all, a lot of times you could be in so many relationships, but that does not mean you were in love or you were loved. That
Mm,
was a representation of love.
yeah, that was what was presented to you so they could win you. That
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean that this person can love the way that you think that this person loves you. And there is one a person that I follow. He's a psychologist. I followed him for a very long time because I like his view when it comes to love and respect and all of those things. But you know there's so many things that he says, and the other day I was listening to it, is that he says that a lot of times, what has been presented to us in our upbringing, right? As far as respecting a woman, respecting a man, pretty much there it's been told to us so many times that we pretty much put people in a pedestal. Oh,
Mhm.
I love him. He's so good to me. I love her. She's so great to me. And you put people in a pedestal. And the problem with that, he says, is that sometimes because we what we want for love, for a partner, and love in a partnership is to be able to look at each other, side by side, eye by eye, not me looking at you, up at you, and you looking down at me,
Mhm.
right? Or vice versa, me looking down at you, and so like that. So a lot of times it's because of the way we're brought up that we have this misconception, and we confuse a lot of times that thought of, oh my God, I look up to him because I love him, and therefore he's my shining armor, and I always have to look up to him. So you're putting yourself down. So what happens, because you're already down there, if this person is a narcissistic person and loves you so much, he's going to keep you there, right? That's my own 2 cents, not his, by the way. It's my own 2 cents. Is that you put them so high up there, is that you allow them to push you even further down. So he is right when he says this, that we have to look at each other side by side, eye to eye, not idolizing anyone, not allowing, we have to work on our childhood problems so that the relationship we have going forward, one day have going forward, could be the healthiest one we can have.
Yep. And one of the things that I think is so important to say is, we tend to keep all of these things inside. And I'm grateful for conversations like this because a lot of women and a lot of men as well, because it goes on both sides, suffer for years in silence, thinking that that's how it has to be. And you should never feel scared in your relationship.
No.
You should never feel scared. You should never feel uncomfortable. And I went through that for a very long time, feeling scared.
Yeah, that's not a healthy relationship. But again, Marlene, it's how, we're brought up, right? You couldn't go to your mom to say, I'm really scared in this relationship, I feel very uncomfortable in this relationship. You probably couldn't go to your dad, even though you trusted him very much, but those were topics that were not discussed in our family. They didn't tell us, growing up, you can tell me anything, we can work it out, you know what I mean? If you're scared, if something happens, you can come and say anything to me and we'll work it out together. So you had to suffer all these things pretty much in silence. Not
Yep.
even your siblings were privy to this information, I'm pretty sure.
No, no, I told, like I was saying, that's something that you kind of just keep inside. And I want to highlight this comment from Miss Tracy. I don't know. I think Miss Tracy is going through something right now. And she says, stop all that messing with my mental. That's my excuse to say, to it's the presentation and comment is just irritating what I do and how I handle things. I just have to pause him. So maybe Miss Tracy's going through something in her relationship, and he, I guess he's messing with her mentally, saying
Oh,
things that
I understand.
he shouldn't say. And I think a lot of people in relationships that they say things, it's one of those things like the backhanded compliments.
Mm.
Like, oh, like they'll say something to you. Oh, you're eating ice cream. Oh, I thought you were trying to lose weight.
You're like, I never said I was trying. Should I
Yeah,
lose
and you
weight?
never said that. So they're trying to say, they're telling you basically that you've gained weight in a weird, strange.
Backhanded kind of way, as
Yeah,
you just said.
yeah.
And again, it takes. I don't. I haven't had the experience to have had dated many people. I unfortunately didn't have that experience. I wish I had, because I think it will be so beneficial for, for our topics and for life experience, on
Mhm.
itself, right? But I have been around a lot of people that, have gone in and out of relationships. And my experience with my own separation and stuff like that. But when men are trying to push themselves into you, which is, I think, what I'm gathering from Miss Tracy's comment, like they're trying to come into your life and take over your life and
Mhm.
control everything you do in your life, that on itself is super scary for someone like us, right? That we're already
Mhm.
mature, that we already, have opened our eyes, or they have had us open our eyes to this type of behavior. Yeah, putting a stop to it and say, hey, 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 no, no, I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to take the steps that I have to take at my own time. So chill, cool off. You have to push away these people. But when you're younger, Marlene, inexperienced, don't have anyone that you can really count on, or someone that gives you the ins and outs of relationship, which is, what we went through. These things are overlooked. We just accept them. We just say, okay, well, I married him, right? So
Mhm.
this is what, it's supposed to be, because now he, like, pretty much in your head, oh, now he owns me.
Yep. No, and not just what we think. They'll tell you that too.
Yeah. And you have lived in a household that, is male dominated. So you kind of are used to, right?
Yeah. And you just think, well, is something wrong with me? It's like, no, it's nothing wrong with you. It's something wrong with them.
Yeah. I always tell them, whatever people say, what's wrong with you? I say, why does it always have to be me? I know I'm a troublemaker, but it could have been you. And I feel that most of the time it is you. So, you have to, even though sometimes we make light of the problems or the situation, is because sometimes we have gone through so many of this relationship, this abusive and controlling and all of those type of relationships that poking light of it, sometimes it helps us deal and not shed the tears that we really want to. Right, Marlene?
Yeah. And, we talk about it here on this platform, but it's not a funny or a laughing matter to feel scared, uncomfortable, controlled. It didn't happen to me, but I know some people that they've cut off when they can eat, you know that they can only shower at this time, they can only eat at this time, they can only go out with them. I wasn't controlled to that limit, but mine was just the constant having to say everywhere I was that
Mm.
that was no, that was,
And again,
it got to a boiling point one day, was like, I'm not telling you where I'm going. Like, like I had it. Like, just leave me alone.
and again, like I said, we try not to stop, because we have had people too that have been unalived
Yeah.
by this. So making light of the subject, because we want to give the message without breaking down, without going through, those images or that thing that we went through or that pain. We have to sometimes laugh a little, and but it's not something that, we're not saying it's a laughing matter, right? We're saying it
No.
it is a serious thing that sometimes we have to giggle before we cry.
Yeah.
For me, I remember when I entered my husband's family, when I first got married. I remember one of my um, sister-in-laws, one of his brother's wives, right? I was going somewhere. I grabbed my keys. I think I already had my first child. So I was like, I grabbed my baby, and I was going to go somewhere. I don't remember exactly where I'm running, because it was so many years ago. And so, I'm leaving. So I said, okay, I'll be back then. Okay, I'll see you later. And it was nice seeing you, whatever. And then she stops me. She's like, you're just going like that? And I said, yes. Why? I said, do you need something? She's like, you're not going to ask him for permission? And I looked at her. I looked at her and I said, honey, the only man I had ever asked for permission was my father. And I married, your brother-in-law, and I left my father's house for that. But again, the only person I have ever asked for permission or something like of that on those kind of lines, I said, it's my father.
Mhm.
Oh, well, but what if he asks for you? I said, well, he can wait and ask me when I get back where I was at. I have to ask him for permission. It's like, oh, okay. And I just looked at her some kind of way. And then when I came back, my husband is like, man, you really shocked that girl. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, she just went up to me and she was trying to explain that you had gone and that you were gonna tell me later, because she had to go really quick. And he's like, I had to stop her. And I said, hey, so and so, calm down. That's what we do in this house. She comes and goes as she pleases, and so do I. But we just respect each other. That's all. And she's like, oh, I just didn't want you to be mad at her. And I was like, he's like, that poor girl was going through a lot. She was going through withdrawals with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Because, it's one of those things that
That's what she was used to, Marlene.
yeah, that's what she was used to. And I hate to say that, but I know of somebody, and that's what they would do. And they would always get upset and say, oh, he's going to leave you if you always just go away and you always just go on vacation and you
Do as
always,
you please. Do
yeah,
as you please.
please. I was like, okay. And if he does, so what? There's the door.
How long did it take you to get there? To
Yeah.
the so what? How long did it
Oh, it
take you?
took me, let's see. Um,
4 or 5 years? 6?
no, Nexi, 11 years.
Thank you. There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
I was being very nice to you, okay? I was trying to give you some leeway here.
No, it took me 11 years to finally have enough courage, because after being beat down for so long,
Mm,
and I think what started helping me is, like I said, I wasn't working in this relationship, and I would, sit by the window and watch women going back and forth. They would have their nice outfits and purses, and they're going to work, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they seem to be so independent. And I was like, I started to think like, why am I not coming and going, doing what I want? I think that was the start of it.
E-
That was the start of it.
Exactly. And that's it. I this person that I'm talking to you about, Marlene, this happened over 30 years ago, right? And mind you, they stayed together. They've been together for 40 plus years now at this point. But
Mhm.
they hate each other, Marlene. She hates them. She finally got a job after being with him for 30 years, and she's working a part time job. Kids are old already. Now she resents everything he did, all the times that she tied her up, and not in actual binds, right? But mentally. So
Yep.
many times that he stopped her from growing. They can stand each other. She seriously resents him a great deal. The love is gone, but they still together. So I don't get it. I always look at him like, what is wrong with you people?
You know what it is, Nexie? I can tell you because before I exited that relationship, it's for yourself, telling yourself that I can be okay without them, because you're so used to the toxicity. You feel that, who am I going to be if I'm not with them, and who's going to tell me what to do now? You have to start getting your mind adjusted. I don't need anybody to tell me anything. I can tell myself what to do.
I
And
know where to send myself when I get upset,
yeah,
right?
and I say that in laughter, but really, I was there for many years not thinking I could make my own choices, go where I wanted to go, shop when I wanted to shop, do what I wanted to do with my personal money. Everything always had to be, what are you spending? And how much do you spend? And what did you buy? And no, take that back. We can't afford it. Mhm.
And you see, and that's the thing for me. Maybe because my father raised us just by himself. I've always had that very independent mentality. My dad always pushed us girls to get out of our depending on others. This world is not going in a way where you're gonna be able to depend. My dad used to say this to us, Marlene, when we were young. My dad never saw this that we have right now, right? Where we can
Yeah.
literally not depend on anyone. But my dad always told us, you guys cannot depend on anyone. You have to be self sufficient. So I always had that, independent mind. I think that I would have not been able to be that type of person that always expects the husband to wait for their opinion, waits for their input, has to be asking for permission or whatever. I don't think I would have been able to do that.
And you know what, Nexie, you know what is very strange and peculiar? I was raised that way. My dad always told us to be independent, but I fell for, I was gullible. I was gullible,
Mm,
and I listened to, I went more by the words that they were saying instead of the action, you know?
mm. And,
Yeah.
and that's what I was about to say to you. Like, what happened? Like, because I know that you're a very independent young girl. You were a very independent little girl. You always, danced at the beat of your own drum, as I had.
Mhm.
I was about to ask you that, to better understand others, because how is it that you ended up there when you were so independent?
You know what I think it was, Nexie, is
Mm-hmm.
I was okay. I was looking for somebody, and they portrayed themselves to be my what you call it, my Prince Charming.
Mm,
So I fell for the fairy tale to find out that it's
okay.
not a fairy tale.
To
They
find
were
out that it
not,
wasn't a prince, that it was a fraud.
yeah. Yeah, I found out that it was a frog, but by that time it's already too late and you have so much invested and your heart is invested. And I think what took me so long to leave the relationship was me admitting to myself that I had been played. I didn't want to believe. Oh no, I wasn't played. He's that's a good person. But I had to get to that level of acceptance and calling it out what it was like. This is toxic. This is not good for me. I'm not growing as a person. And that's when I started to do things like start getting my hair done again, start going to the gym, losing weight. When I started to feel good about myself, then I became strong enough to be like, no, I don't need you.
Mm. So it's, in other words, it's nobody's immune to this.
Mm-mm.
Like you can be the most independent person, right? And you will fall prey to someone like that.
Yeah.
Because so that's what I always like. For me, it was always very hard. But you weren't like this in college, but you weren't like this when we were growing up. What happened to you? But what I think that what I'm understanding is that you fell prey to a narcissistic manipulator,
Mm-hmm.
lying piece of, we can't say here. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what happens to a lot of girls, right? That or men, to a lot of
Yeah.
people, is that they don't realize that this person is not who they're portraying, to be. I was lucky enough to have someone that allowed me, like I said, to continue to be who I was, to continue to grow, even though we married very young. Even though sometimes he was a little narcissistic, he was never controlling. So I think that that's
Mm.
why I continue to be who I am now.
Yeah, but
Right.
what is funny, Nexie, is being in that relationship. I feel like it when I finally came back to my own self, how I used to be when I was younger. I felt like now I'm even more.
You came back with a bang.
I came back like everybody's like. I remember the first time, like my brothers was like, "Marlene's back." Everybody was like, "She's back."
What happened to you?
I was like, no, I just took my little sabbatical. I took my little what do you call it? My little
Your
bear nap. I was hibernating, but I'm back.
period, as we call him. I had to adjust to
Hmm.
myself again, right?
Yeah, I had to come back into my own. And the thing about it is, it doesn't matter how strong you are, how independent you are, all those things. When you choose a person that is completely off, it's going to affect you. There's nothing that can prepare you for it. You could say, oh, I would never choose anybody like that. I would never, you never know what you will do. You never know what
Exactly.
you'll do for a relationship. I can say that because I was raised to be a strong woman and to not take any foolishness and to not, I was raised that way, but I fell for it.
And that's the thing. It's sometimes it's very scary. Is that we think, right, that we are there, that we are, but we don't know the intentions of that other person coming into our lives, and how they can manipulate us and break us into what we become with them,
Hmm,
right?
exactly.
When
Well,
they get their hooks.
yeah, when they get their hooks in us, and because we talked about the possessiveness. Now to talk about reclaiming my life. And that's not an easy thing, Nexie. After you've been in a relationship when all you know is toxicity and you've taken hits to your mental health, when you start, not feeling good about yourself, like your self-esteem goes down, you doubt yourself, you have all like the PSTD, PTSD. Yeah, PTSD. I had a little bit of ADHD right there moment.
Mm-hmm.
But
PTSD.
yeah, and
PTSD.
you go through all these things to where you are doubting yourself so much, and it's not you, it's other people. So I had to get back into doing things that I probably should have did years ago, making sure that you have boundaries, making sure that you have your time for self-care, that your time is yours. So I know from then on, I don't play when it's my me time. Everybody knows my phone is off. Don't get upset and angry and they say, oh, she must be having her me time. They know that now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But Marlene, a lot of times, um, reclaiming, and that's the part that I love. That you have been able to do that. You have been able. You were, regardless of what happened, you were able to get out of that abuse, because it is a form of abuse, whether we like
Mm-hmm.
to see it that way or not, right? It is a form of abuse. um Very, very strong and despicable form of abuse. But um the fact that you were able to get out and reclaim your independence, reclaim your values, reclaim your self-worth, that on itself is a win-win for you. You're right.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
win-win.
It's a win, and not just for me, um, Nexie. I feel when I reclaimed myself, I feel like I was seeing for the first time, like living for the first time. You're like, you start seeing like, when did, when has the sky been so blue? And when did the birds, oh, they sing so beautiful. I don't know. I turned to be very hypersensitive to start paying attention to everything now. Mhm.
Mm, yeah, which is
Because
why they
for
say,
so
right,
long
Marlene,
you
that
feel,
when you're not. Oh, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Go ahead, Nexie.
No, I was gonna say that's because a lot of people say that, that when you're in relationships like that, everything turns gray. Everything turns,
Mhm.
all the flavors turn sour. Nothing. It
Mhm.
gets to the point where all you see is just the gray sky. There's nothing beautiful about life. They make you that way.
Yeah. And that's where I was, Miss
And
Nixie. That's where I was.
now let me ask you. I'm gonna poke at this as long as I can, as long as I'm
Go ahead.
allowed. Um,
Go ahead.
how long did it take you? How long did it take you to realize, or to get away 100%, like away, and say I'm done?
Well,
How long did
after
it take you to get to that point?
well, after the 10 years, I realized that it wasn't good. It still took me another year to completely leave.
Okay,
So, so
okay.
years
Have you
total.
been back since?
No,
Okay, so it took you a year to say I'm done,
yeah.
completely done, never looking back, never going back. Now, um, when you were going through this, and getting yourself prepared to say I'm done, I'm leaving, whatever, um, were you guys still living together, like in the same place?
No, no.
Oh,
I
okay. Were
have
you in
yeah.
therapy?
Yeah, I was in therapy.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get it now. Okay. Okay. Good. That's what I was like, okay, if they're not, okay, good. So therapy as well, right? Propel you to
Yeah.
say, you know what? No, this is not good. Um, a lot of people, again, who haven't been in that situation, that haven't gone through the turmoil that you have gone through
Mhm.
and come out of, don't understand why people stay for so long. Like, why
Mm.
did you stay for that long? And it's a question that I have asked myself, And then has said to myself, how dare you ask that question? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I have no problem
Now, the
answering that
process,
question.
okay.
I have no problem answering that. I know
Can
the
I
reason
ask
why.
that question?
Yeah, you can. And I know for sure the
Okay.
reason why.
Okay.
I know.
Why did you stay so long?
Well, I can say for me, I can't speak for anybody other than myself. I I thought that's all I deserved. I thought that's all I deserved.
Mm,
And in going through therapy, that's when
okay.
I always thought good about myself, but I thought that's all I deserved in a romantic relationship. See, I wouldn't
Okay.
tolerate certain
Okay.
things from
Now,
my siblings, from other people, but in a romantic relationship, I thought that's just how it was supposed to be.
there you go. Okay. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Now, reclaiming your independence, reclaiming yourself. How long did it take you for that process to come to the other side? Meaning, to say, I feel good with the decision I made. I feel good with myself again. You know, I did the right thing. How long? Kind of, because I don't know if you know exactly how long it took you, but
Oh, I don't know exactly how long it took me, but I know that it was almost right away. Like as soon as I walked away and I was on my own, I knew that it was the best decision that I had ever made. Like as soon as I walked away, because it was like, oh, I felt such a relief. Like wake up in the morning and be like, I don't have to say, oh, where are you going? And now I can say it jokingly, even though it's not a joke. I started saying to myself, Marlene, where are you going today? I don't know. Where do you want to go? But that's what I had to go through because like, oh, I don't have anybody asking. Oh, so go up and get up and do something. I was like, yeah, I think I will.
yeah, I've heard before, kind of like the same thing, is that there is a point in where it doesn't normally people don't know, right? When the decision that of leaving or an abusive relationship, you know, when you make that decision, a lot of people don't know the outcome, but when they understand why they left
Mhm.
and the changes that have been made, reclaiming them, you know, their self back, they say that is this powerful feeling that you can do anything. You feel like you can just accomplish anything in the world because you have come out from there.
Yep. And when I got out of that relationship, I did everything. I started a business. I went to college, started a new career. Started working on myself, worked on my relationships, like everything. I felt like elevated for like when you leave I call it the darkness.
When you
When
leave the
I
dark
left
side.
yeah, when I left the dark side and I went to my family was like, "Come to the light. We miss you." But yeah, that's how it was.
Oh my god. I'm trying not to laugh so hard. Um, for me, it wasn't mostly like when we ended that relationship. Of course, it's a process, right? It's a process of, you're leaving a very long standing relationship of where you created lives, with together, and you have brought life into the world together as well. So it was a process of acceptance. I had to accept that there was no fixing this. The fixer that I always was, right? I wanted to fix everything for everybody. But what I got from once I came out of all the turmoil is that I was stronger.
Mhm.
Um, I was more bold and more determined to never allowed to be blindsided like that ever again.
Yeah.
So, you become this powerhouse once you understand. So before I didn't understand when people would say it, you just feel it. It's this exuberating feeling of, oh my God, I'm free.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know I wanted to be free, but I'm free. And I think that for me, Marlene, that's what happened. Is that I stayed in a probably in a relationship for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that for me was very hard to accept because I didn't feel that way according to me in the relationship. Even though once I started, because I had to go back to therapy, for a couple of more years after our separation and stuff, just, to get myself back together again. But I realized that I had already left the relationship a long time ago. I just didn't leave it physically.
Yep. Yep.
So the outcome of me leaving that relationship, um, spiritually and emotionally and all of that, is what led to what happened at the end and the reason why we got separated. So I had to come to that conclusion on my own, through therapy, of course. But I learned that I had already left it a
Oh yeah.
long time ago. I was just afraid of what people were going to think or what people were going to say or what was going to happen with my kids. How I was going to explain to them or how they're going to deal with this. So all of that kept me there, but I was already done. So that the understanding that is when I finally got it, I was like, yes, I'm free.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know I wanted to be free.
No, and you know what? I felt you on such a high level when you said that. Just wanting that you didn't even know how much you wanted to be free. Like for you had left the relationship a long time ago, and I'll say it's things like when like before in a healthy relationship, like you can't wait for your partner to come home, you can't wait to
Mm.
do things together. And when you start checking out of the relationship, like, I don't care. Like before you like, you jump up, yeah, you're home. Give them a hug, give them a kiss, and you be like, whatever. Like when they come home, I slam the door, like, do not come in here. Don't bother me. Don't even talk to me. That's not
They
good.
come home and you're like, oh, you're home again?
Yeah, and then you find an excuse to leave, like, yeah, well, I'm going because if you're here, it's time for me to go. And I did that a lot. Like, how come every time I come home you leave? And I didn't know I was already in my mind. I was already processing that I don't want to be around you. But I didn't even
Mm.
realize it yet. Every time he would come in the room, I'm leaving. Like, yeah, I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta go. Oh, yeah, I gotta go here. Oh, yeah, I have an appointment. Yeah, no.
At 11 at night? Yeah, there's doctors nowadays.
Yeah, the doctor, I gotta go. I have an appointment. I'm on a waiting list.
But again, it's something that you don't realize until you start really 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 focusing on, okay, let me sit down, right? Let me go over this. But that's the thing that it scares us the most. I feel that that having to face the fact that we have already checked out of that relationship,
Mhm.
we have already checked out of that flight,
Yeah,
and we're
no.
embarking in a total new flight on our own. Facing that and not being able to accept it, I think that was for me the fight that I had, which is why I went back to therapy. Reclaiming myself, reclaiming that I was going to be by myself from now on. And I was
Mhm.
ending a lifetime of memories and a lifetime of togetherness because the love wasn't there anymore. And that, Marlene, accepting that he didn't love me and I didn't love him, that was the hardest and the most painful truth for me.
Really? For
Yes.
mine was the opposite. When I found out that I didn't love him for me, that's what freed me. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I was like, well, if I don't love you, gotta go. I don't know. Is that weird or strange? My family says that that's weird and strange, but
Well,
that's how I am. If
you're
I
a
don't,
weird person.
if the love is not there for somebody, I can't fake it. I'm like, no, no, we gotta go.
No, no. When it comes to friends and sometimes family members, yeah, I get that. But when it comes to your partner of many years, for me, I think that actually, no, I don't think, I know that was the most painful thing, is to face that the love had ended. That we started with a lot of love, we started with a lot of hopes and dreams and all of this. So for me, the fact that that had ended, it was very painful. It's a lifetime, Marlene. I've lived with him for a very long time. So that was the one thing that I had to tell myself over and over and over and over, that I had to accept that, and that it was done, but I could love him in a different way.
Okay. You know
So,
what? I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
For me, Nexie, my most painful thing wasn't that we didn't love each other anymore, but that we were living a lie.
Mm.
I think to me that hurt me more than not being in love with each other. Living a lie, like pretending that things were okay and they
When
haven't
they
been.
weren't.
Yes. Always pushing it. Oh, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. And people are like, no, it's not. That's not how it's supposed to be, and always telling yourself, oh, but you just, do this, just do that. And it was always like when it's one sided, you're always putting in the work, but they're not putting in any work back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, it's different for everybody, right?
Hmm.
Some people don't even go through what we went through. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't, no, it was nothing for me. Yeah, I just kicked them out, and that was
Yeah.
and that's okay, even, right? But for me, that I think it's because, again, we have kids, right? We
Hmm.
were there birthing these kids together. We saw the first steps, we saw their first, tooth fall out. So there were so many things, so many milestones as a couple that we had done together, that I think that's why you get so used to this person, and you
Yeah.
confuse daily life, daily everything with love, daily love. And sometimes they're just things that you do. It's like walking, right? You do it every day.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean you love walking. I know I don't. I wish I had like somebody to carry me around and I didn't have to work my legs. So, you confuse those feelings the same way that, repetitive movement. So you go through life even after you have already stopped either admiring or loving or worshiping this person, right? You stick around, but it still hurts when you have to accept that that person doesn't love you anymore and that you don't love them anymore.
Hmm.
It hurt me very much.
Yeah, I remember what my mom used to always say, that love is a living and a breathing thing. She always said that because she says once you stop living to love that person, like
Mm-hmm.
if it does not feel that important and special to you, you have some real issues because love dies. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
putting in work to feed, to nurture, just like a garden, you have to water sometimes, you got to weed sometimes, you have to put some soil down. There's a lot of things that you have to do in a relationship, and you can't just think just living together, we love each other, and that's
And
how
that's it.
it was for me. It was like, you don't do anything together. You barely talk to each other. All that you ever do is complain about what the other does. That's for me. I was like, we were roommates.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe for me, not that far, right? We're never like that, but But you do have that, hey, wait a minute, if we're not really enjoying each other's company, then we are roommates.
Mhm. Not saying that there were other things involved. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying basically that's what it turns into if it's not like the romance and the spending time together, the talking, the laughing, enjoying each other's company. What is the point of being with somebody and you don't have that with them?
Hmm.
It's a waste of
Exactly.
time.
It sure is. It sure is a waste of time. I'm sorry, but it is. And again, you have to come to these conclusions all by your lonesome. Not nobody can tell you this. You have to do this on your own. Because even when people are telling you, "Whoa, you guys are kind of like, I don't know, that's not the way couples behave," you start defending. Oh no, of course, that's how we do it. It works for us. It's perfect for us, right?
They're very defensive. I know, I did. Oh, but that's how we do it over here. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
That's how we roll in this house. But again, you have to, once you start seeing those cracks, if you don't, like your mom says, if you don't repair them, if you don't patch them up, and if
Mhm.
that's when the love starts dying. And a lot of us are so busy with daily life is that we forget, or we're not interested enough to do that, right? We feel
Mhm.
that, oh, it's okay, we got kids, he knows what goes on, so he's going to be okay, or she's going to be okay.
Yeah. My thing is, he'll get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it. He'll get, and you say that all the time. You'll get over it, and one day they do get over it.
But again, it's just the fact that you actually did and came out, a triumphant at the other side of this spectrum, Marlene. That on itself, it's amazing. That you were able to reclaim yourself, reclaim, and now you focus going forward on something, I'm sure, that is not going to even resemble what you had before.
No, it's a completely different life. One when you have a really bad relationship, I was so focused on my healing that I wanted to make sure, if I ever had another relationship, that I was not going to repeat the same things like what I accepted and also what I gave.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. And when people keep on going back to the same, right? You're like, you just left that other abusive behavior. You're back with another. It's because they never worked on themselves. They've never taken the time to analyze the reason why they continue this, to pick this type of people, this type of, or accept this type of behaviors. And sometimes it's good to have someone that has been on that side, Marlene, like you have, and like I said, maybe a little bit myself at the end of it, because it was more like, oh, you weren't there at this time, where were you? Were you seeing someone? Oh, now that you're single, blah 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 blah, right? So I had
Mhm.
to put a stop to that. I said, hey, 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 hold your horses. My house, my rules. Your house, your rules. We are in total different households now.
Mhm.
So that's not gonna roll here, or you're gonna roll out of here. When you're,
Yeah. I'm not gonna say why he was gonna roll out with, but okay.
oh, what was gonna push him to roll out of, and where it was gonna get stuck at. No, I'm no, but there's so many things that we don't realize that we have gone through. Maybe not to the same extent, right, that you had to go through, but we still have to bring awareness to all of this. Like for me, it's a learning curve. I get to speak to you and learn from you what
Mhm.
worked, what happened, why you stay so long. And those were things that I always wanted to know, but I was always afraid to ask someone, because I always thought I'm being too forward. I'm asking something that is painful. Maybe they don't even know, and I'm bringing back scars.
Mhm.
peeling back those little scars. And I was like, well, if I don't do it now, which is why I said, I have to ask, because I never understood why.
Yeah. And so for a long time, I did not know why. It wasn't until I started working on myself and seeking some help that I understood why. And, it didn't just affect me in the romantic aspect. When you go through something like that, it affects all your relationships. It affects your life. It affects your health. How you view life. It's completely changed. My perspective and my focus has completely changed from who I used to be, because now I can say for sure, now I know myself. I don't
Hmm.
think at that time I knew myself and loved myself like I should.
And that puts you into this next stage of your life, that you are going to want someone that appreciates you and doesn't put you in that position again, because now right, like the warning signs, the little signs that they give us in the beginning, but we don't see. And they're not gonna be able to fool you into accepting if their life is not put together.
Right. You can see it coming from a mile away. Yeah.
And that's what I think, it's why I like that we were talking about this, because you know I've lost someone in the past, which that was in a relationship like that. And
Mhm.
I all of us didn't understand, and I think that sometimes with some of us don't understand, why did you stay, why so long, why did you put up with it? But we didn't understand until what happened, the reason why, maybe, right? Maybe that's why. Somebody else said, because she loved them, that's why she stayed. So that's why, for me, because I had never got those answers from the person that I wanted to ask, is why I had to ask you.
No, it's okay, Nexi. That's why I do the sip and chat. I'm very transparent. For me, I don't have anything that I feel like is too personal of a question to ask for the things that I've been through, because I'm healed now.
Hmm.
You know, when I was unhealed, boy, if you would have told me, I would have called you every colorful name under the sun, because I wasn't ready to accept it and receive it. But once you heal from it, once you accept not only what they did but also what you did, because it swings both sides. The door swings both ways. There's things that they did, but there's also things that I did as well.
Nuh-uh. I told you what I did to my therapist. What? Didn't you hear what I just said about him? It's his fault. Like, why are you focusing on me? I again, it's beautiful because it gives me some sort of closure, right? Even though I
Mhm.
couldn't ask this person, because unfortunately, she couldn't stay with us for long, but I have an answer that it makes me understand a little bit better the why.
Mm.
And I thank you very much, Miss Marlene.
Thank you so much, Miss Dexy. Great topic and discussion. Thank you so much for your openness and talking on this sip and chat. These are the conversations that really do matter, and I appreciate you.
Me too, Marlene. Thank you so very much for having me. And remember, always, always, always put yourself first.
Mhm.
That's all I have to say for this one. Thank you for having me, Miss Marlene. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Miss Nexie. Shout out to the chat, all you loved ones. Me and Miss Nexie, we do these conversations because we want anybody who feels scared, uncomfortable, weird, you're in a relationship, you feel like you're being controlled, that you don't have to. The best thing to do is to leave while you can. You don't want to have any regret, and the worst case scenario, I never want to see any of you loved ones unalived. Thank you so much for joining. And those who are watching in the replay, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you, Miss Nexie.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me. Bye, chat. Bye,
Bye,
Miss Marlene.
everybody. Bye. See you all next week.